Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Amber Hines from Ashburr, and at Ashburr, we specialize in Medicaid compliant annuities from A-rated insurance carriers. Today, we're going to be talking about exempt transfers for Medicaid planning purposes, and we're super excited to have attorney Todd Watley with us to present today's webinar. Todd practices in Arkansas as well as Oklahoma and has built several elder law practices that he is still a part of, but also has sold as well. If you have any questions during today's webinar, feel free to type those into the question portion of the GoToWebinar dashboard. You can also find a copy of the handouts from today's webinar and the handouts portion as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Todd, and thank you again for joining us.
Okay, thanks, Amber. All right, I am super excited about this just because this is one of the most exciting issues in the practice of elder law is being able to help clients transfer assets, give things away, but everybody thinks, well, you can't do that. You know, that's a problem. And it is a problem typically, but there are times that you can, and that's what I want to go through today. And it's a great opportunity to make sure that you get hired. If you have a client in and you're like, man, I'm sure, hope they hire me. If you can find one of these, it's an amazing opportunity. All right. So if there is one thing I know about elder law meetings, when a client comes in with a exempt transfer opportunity, I pretty much know that I am going to get hired. The trick though is you've got to give away enough of the farm for them to realize that you know what you're talking about, because you're going against probably what they've heard from the nursing home, even from the state many times, and from everybody at church and the beauty shop. They're like, you can't give things away, and you're saying that you can. You've got to give them just enough information so that they know that you know what you're talking about, but not actually give away the farm, because actually they can take this information and go do it themselves. So it's a balancing act, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. All right. So just real quick, a little bit about me. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I learned this by myself 20 years ago. In Arkansas, there was basically one other elder law attorney in the state, and he did not share information. I called, I asked, he would not help me. And so I learned this all by myself, and it took a while, but I've been fairly successful. I've created and sold 5 law firms throughout the state and some other states, and I'm currently building a small firm here and one in Tulsa. NELF is the National Elder Law Foundation. That is the organization that determines who gets to be a certified elder law attorney. And I was privileged to be on their board from 2010 to 2018, and I was very honored to be president of that organization from 2016 to 2018. I now grade the exam that is given to potential SELAs, and I love it. And I have presented pretty much everywhere. I love to teach. I love what I do, and I hope that that shows as we go through this. All right, so just a quick review of the Medicaid assets and the rules, okay? So when we are looking at assets, things that a person owns, there are countable and there are protected assets. So a countable asset is anything that does count towards your Medicaid asset limitation. All right, a protected or exempt asset are the things Medicaid says you can own and still qualify. So let's go through those real quick. The shorter list is the protected or the exempt assets. So basically the home and any land that is attached to it is non-countable up to fairly substantial sums. In some states, it's $580,000. In some, I think it's $860,000. That depends on your state. Pretty much any vehicle that you own, you can own one, and mostly regardless of value. Any household property, personal property, as I tell clients, anything that is in your house, in your attic, in your storage room, whatever, those don't count. The state is not going to come out and go through that and value it up. It's like, you're fine, we don't care. Any irrevocable funeral trust, a prepaid burial plan, that money that is spent on that is there in that account, that is also not counted. And in some states, the community spouses IRA does not count, okay? Pretty much everything else does count. So checking, savings, CDs, cash, IRAs, like I said, in some states, any real property that is not your home and typically is in another state, that's going to be counted. Now, there are some deed or title ownership issues there that we just don't have time to get into, but typically if the Medicaid applicant themselves cannot sell that property by themselves, it is also going to be not counted. If the person can sell the property, can do anything with this property by themselves, they can sell their portion of it, it's going to be counted. And then also anything that other than your one vehicle, the boats, the RVs, trailers, things like that, those are going to be counted. So we're talking about transferring assets, giving things away, and the typical thought is, wait, it's a gift, I can't transfer things without a penalty. That rule is actually, a gift is defined as a transfer of an asset for less than fair market value, also known as a uncompensated transfer. And it has to be made during the look back period. And if it is made during that look back period, then they will assign a penalty to it. A compensated transfer, some people will think, well, I've sold my car, or I've sold my house during the look back period. Is that a problem? Well, no, it is not, because that is a transfer of assets for which they received fair market value. So they just converted the asset from one thing to another. That's a sale, that's okay. I mean, it is an asset still, so that's okay. Medicaid is looking for when you have decreased your estate by giving something away and not getting money back for it. The look back period is a period of time that Medicaid can examine the applicant's finances to determine if there was a uncompensated transfer. In all states except California, it is a 60-month look back. So from the date of application, they can go back 5 years or 60 months to see, what have you done with your assets and have you given anything away? You are required by law to disclose that to them, and Medicaid can go back and find it. So a quick example, Dan lives in Pennsylvania and his state has the 5-year look back. And so he gave his grandson $20,000 January 1st, 2015, okay? He now enters the nursing home on May 1st, 2020. Does he have to report the gift? The answer is no, because it is outside of that 60-month look back, okay? And typically when you're meeting with the client and you're doing pre-planning, the look back is actually a look forward, because it's like, hey, can we make it 5 years? Yes, we can do some transfers, we can do some things, but if it does not fall into any of these exemptions we're going to talk about, we have to look forward 5 years and advise the family, look, we can do this, but for the next 5 years, you cannot go on Medicaid because of the amount of this gift. How do we calculate the penalty for a gift? It is simply the gift in your state. How many months would it have paid for a nursing home had you not given it away? that's the number of months Medicaid will penalize you for. So it's basically the gift divided by the penalty divisor for your state, that equals the penalty period. So the way people understand that is this amount of money would have paid for X number of months, so therefore Medicaid's not going to pay X number of months. Pretty straightforward. So what is that number? What is the penalty divisor? It is a calculation by your state to decide what is the average cost of nursing homes in your state. And it should change every year. When I got into this 20 years ago, Arkansas had not changed their number for decades, and it was about half of the actual price. And I took them to court on a case, and they changed it, and now they update that number every April 1st to be more representative of the actual cost of care. Okay, so different states have different prices. Pennsylvania's almost $11,000. Arkansas is just under $6,000, just because our nursing homes are way cheaper than Pennsylvania's. So that just makes sense. Another example, Dan gifted $100,000 to his grandson January 1st, 2018. So clearly within the 5-year look back. He went into a nursing home 2 years later. In Arkansas, the penalty divisor, and this is a pre-April number, when Amber and I did these slides, this was the actual number. It is now 5816. So if there's any Arkansas people on there, don't take this number. It's actually different. But for example, this will work, and I didn't want to redo the numbers. Okay, so a $100,000 gift divided by the pre-April divisor meant that $100,000 would have paid for 17.39 months worth of nursing homes. So therefore, that's the penalty. That penalty is going to be different in Pennsylvania. If Dan gave away $100,000 in Pennsylvania based on their divisor, it's only a 9.3 month penalty. Okay, so the gift matters depending on the state. For some reason, I activated Siri. Okay, non-penalized are exempt transfers. Okay. Hang on, excuse me just a second. Okay, so non-penalized transfers. We're going to go through each of these, and I'm going to show you how these work and give you examples of how you can use these in a meeting. Okay, number one, transfer of the home to a spouse, minor child, disabled child, or a child who has lived in the home for the prior 2 years. Some very interesting transfer opportunities for the home. Assets other than the home, we can actually transfer those into certain types of trust. We're going to talk about transfers that were made. They were gifts. They did not get anything back for them, but they still should not be penalized, and I'm going to go through that. There is a promissory note that you can use and an annuity that we can use to actually transfer an asset into that turns it from an asset into income and makes everything good. All right, so let's go through these. Just a few more definitions. So what language is required in a properly structured annuity? The DRA Medicaid compliant annuity is the only annuity that will work in these situations to make a transfer of assets turn into income. And you can bring this up in a meeting. You can tell the client, hey, we need to take this CD or investments or whatever, and we need to turn it into a annuity. They'll say, oh, I've got one. And I'll always say, you don't have this one, okay? I promise you, you do not have this annuity because there are some requirements. Number one, it's irrevocable. You can't assign it. It has to be actuarially sound and be in equal payments. And, they may say, well, yeah, that's my annuity. Okay, here's the kicker. The state has to be the beneficiary, and I'm pretty sure you did not create an annuity that said, when I die, anything left in this annuity goes to the state. You know, they're like, oh yeah, no, I did not do that. Okay, this annuity has to have these 5 requirements for it to be qualifying. And let me just say real quick, so many people have financial advisors and they're very reluctant themselves, and their financial advisor is extremely reluctant, almost defiant, to let this money leave their control. And they may say, oh, I can do this annuity. I promise you, it's a difficult conversation. And if you have questions about this, I can give you some forms that I make a client sign the form saying, I don't recommend that you use your financial advisor for this annuity. There are primarily one place I would go to, that's Amber. She understands this. She will do this correctly. Your advisor may not, but if they swear that they can, I make them sign a release that says, I told you not to use them, that this is important, this has to be done correctly, and if it's not done correctly, this is not my fault, because I almost got into a lawsuit between a financial advisor and myself because he did it wrong, and the client was denied, and it was ugly, and we almost went to court, but things got settled. Okay, so please try your best to talk them out of using their financial advisor, because there are very few companies who does this, and I guarantee you no one does it better than Amber. All right, and she didn't pay me to say that. Exempt transfers. Okay, the home, this is the home. So when you think about these rules, this is just the home. Number one, the home can be transferred to the spouse. That's okay. Not a big deal, because when she now, or he or she will need Medicaid years from now, it's an issue, still a problem, but Medicaid does let us transfer it to the spouse. We can also give the home to a child who is under 21, who is blind or permanently disabled. That kind of makes sense. A sibling who has a equity interest in this home and has lived there for 1 year prior to going into the nursing home, we can transfer this house to them. That's kind of like a spouse situation where they both own it. We can give it to the other owner. I view this as the old maid transfer, because typically you'll see 2 sisters, never married. They've lived in this house. They've paid for it equally. Both of them have their name on it. We can now, when one of those siblings goes into a nursing home, we can now transfer this to her sister with no penalties. One of the best exemptions out there is the caregiver child exemption. So when a child has lived with a parent for 2 years, and they have truly lived there, they've gotten mail there, you know, they have lived there for 2 years, we can now give the house to that child with no penalty. All right, so that's a really cool exemption, and I'll go into more details on that in just a second. Other assets. Now, this is not the home, this is money, vehicles, things like that. Again, we can now give this to the spouse or to a third party for the sole benefit of the spouse, meaning a sole benefit trust. Okay, to a disabled child. So if there is a disabled child, we can actually give them assets, and those transfers will not be penalized. We can also transfer to a trust solely for the benefit of a disabled person, but they have to be under the age of 65. So if you use a sole benefit trust, typically a special needs trust, we can create that trust, transfer the assets for the sole benefit of a disabled person, and Medicaid will not penalize us. A quick review, and this is a whole seminar within itself, but exempt trust, number one, a first party self-settled special needs trust is a exempt transfer, and that's for the Medicaid applicant who has received money can now create this trust for themselves. A qualified income trust and a pooled trust. Okay, so those are trusts that do hold money. They are the money's gone, but Medicaid does not penalize those. All right, so let's get to getting hired. One of the most common things I see, and I just saw it yesterday in a phone call, the family was concerned because mom had to mention she had given away probably $150,000 over the last 5 years. And they came to me saying, Todd, do we have to pay all this back? The nursing home is telling us she's made gifts. We don't know where this money went, so that's a gift, and we're going to be penalized. Okay, well, not necessarily. Typically, when you see this happen, and the family doesn't consider this to be a gift, and that's when payments have been made to a child because they were a caregiver for the parent. This is not the child living in the home. This is the son or daughter coming in every day after work, before work, during work to care for the parent, and the parent says, here, let me pay you. Well, that makes sense to everybody. They're giving up time and effort. Mom and dad would have to pay someone for that, and so they're just paying the kid. Well, that makes sense. However, Medicaid sees it as a check from the parent to the child, and they're like, aha, that's a gift. No, wait, they provided care, and they're like, prove it. Okay, so in this situation, hardly ever, rarely is there a written agreement from the date that this started. And so in this meeting where I am convinced that the child did do the care, they did everything they were supposed to do, but they had not put it in writing, I tell the family, put this agreement in writing. Now, it's got to be dated prior to the first payment for it to count. Okay, and we're not taking advantage of the system. We're simply putting in writing what the intention of the parties were. And so I tell them, you need to put this in writing. Sometimes I'll say, bring me the agreement that says what you were doing. They're like, we don't have one. I'm like, well, find it, do it, create the agreement that simply puts in writing what your intention was, and then you can show that agreement to the state to say, yes, the child provided care for $850 a month starting a long time ago. That agreement changes this from an uncompensated transfer to a valid contract hiring, and it's not a gift. Okay. Now, that's easy. The hard situation is when the parent has given away, not for services, but just a granddaughter's going to college. Here, baby, here's $20,000 for college. Good luck, study hard. Or some child is out of work, needs money for rent or car payments, whatever, and mom has just given them money. Okay. These are hard cases. I will tell you, this is not easy to win, but you have to jump in and help the client show the state, look, only gifts that were made for the purpose of qualifying for Medicaid shall be penalized. And that is the actual rule. I don't ever put that middle part in because every family is going to say, oh, no, she didn't give that to us for the purpose of qualifying. I know, but every gift, the assumption is it's going to be a gift and therefore going to be penalized. So I don't tell clients for the purpose of qualifying, I just say gifts will be penalized. But when you find it, when it comes up in a fact pattern, the way that you fight that is to say, look, the person was not sick and they were not needing care, and the person did not give away all of their money. So apparently this transfer of funds from mom to the kid was not for the purpose of qualifying. There was no intent to do this to qualify for Medicaid. The child was unemployed, could not make their car payment, and that's the purpose of this gift. Whatever it is, and many times this will have to go to a fair hearing to prove this, and you will have to have the family members there to testify, here's the reason I asked mom for this money. Here's why mom did it. She still had money afterwards. She did not do it for the purpose of qualifying. It's a difficult argument, but it can be made. All right. Number two, there have been gifts, okay, and now mom's going into the nursing home. They were gifts. They were outright, here's the money. I'm sick. I'm going into a nursing home soon. Here's the money. Hopefully I can make it 5 years. But if they don't, they come in to see you and say, now what? Do we have to pay this back? Okay, so first, the gift is nearing the 60-month mark. If you're at 55, 56, whatever, that's only 4 or 5 more months. Yeah, that's easy. Just pay to the end of the 60 months, then apply, saying there have been no gifts during the previous 60 months, and we now apply. But sometimes it's not that clear cut, and helping them figure out what should I do, how can I save money, is very valuable, and it's a great way to get hired and provide great value to the clients. The things that you look at, do we apply now or do we wait? It depends on how long ago the gift was made, the amount of the gift, and how much resources the client still has. And being able to prove this in writing to show numbers is crucial. A $500,000 gift 55 months ago, that's a no-brainer. Pay the 5 months, be done with it, okay? But a $20,000 gift made 5 months ago, you still got 55 more months to go. That doesn't make sense to not go through this process. So those are both extremes that are easy to answer. Here's a difficult case. Let's look at Mary. Okay, so the family comes in with mom, who is a widow. She is now in a nursing home with very little money. Mary's income is $2,500 a month, and her cost of care is $6,500 a month. She gave away $150,000 for the purpose of qualifying for Medicaid because that's what her family attorney told her to do. So that gift was 40 months ago. The family, out of the 150, they have not spent $75,000. Families do this. They're like, oh, great. Mom gave us $150,000. This quote emergency comes up, this comes up. So now they've got about $75,000. The nursing home told them that they were disqualified for 26 months. Okay, 150,000 divided by the penalty divisor means 26 months. And so therefore they should just pay out of pocket, since they're only 20 months to 60, they're at 40, they've got to get to 60. Since the penalty is 26 months, just pay. They panic because they don't have enough money, all right? So with a nursing home of $6,500, she makes $2,500, they need $4,000 a month. We've got 20 months to go, so that's $80,000. They're going to lose everything that they have right now, and they've got to come up with another $5,000. Can you help these people? All right, so this is the way that I present this to families so that they can understand how the rule works. I go through these 3 steps. Number 1, the no-brainer formula. This is what the nursing home tells them. This is what DHS will tell them. You made a gift. You divide it by the average cost of the nursing home. Here is your penalty period. That's exactly what they were told. 26 months. That's more than 20, so just wait. All right, so 150 divided by 6, 25 months. All right, so even if they're not in the nursing home, if this is day 1 and they've come to you with $150,000 in the bank and they're like, can we protect any of this? You explain to them, okay, number 1, if we just give away the entire 150, that creates a fairly significant penalty period, and you will pay almost all of this back to get through the penalty period. So this doesn't make sense. This is a no-brainer. Don't do it, okay? Here is the simple formula. So the way that we can do this is you take the total gift and now create 2 different buckets, all right? So 150 divided by 2 means that you have 2 buckets now of $75,000. If we take 1 bucket and we give that away, here family, it's yours, you can have it. So 75,000 divided by 6 leaves a 12.5-month penalty. We need $6,000 a month for that 12.5 months will pay for the penalty. So half of this money is a gift. The other half goes into an annuity to pay for the nursing home during the length of the penalty. Okay, that's very simple. People understand that. Here's a gift. Here's what we have to pay back. So now we can take any size gift and we can protect at least half of it by doing this. This is also known as a half a loaf formula. All right. Half is a gift, half goes to the nursing home. But this is not the real world. What about the actual cost of care? Your penalty divisor may be different than the actual cost of the nursing home, and the person makes income. How do we factor the actual cost of care and their income into this formula? Can we make this even better? The answer is yes. And that's why I call this the golden formula, because this is what you show the family and you prove to them it's worth hiring me to do this. So to take into effect the cost of care and income, you need this formula. So it's the penalty divisor divided by the penalty divisor plus the cost of care minus their income, net income, what can go to the nursing home. The result of that is the percentage of money that you get to keep, that the family can keep, otherwise does not go into the annuity. All right, so to go back to our numbers, we have a $150,000 total amount of money. Penalty divisor is $6,000. The actual cost of care, $6,500. Their income is $2,500. We put that into the formula. That brings us 6,000 divided by 10,000 brings us to 60%, not 50% with the simple formula, but the golden formula gives us 60% is what we get to keep. So out of 150, that means the family gets to keep $90,000, not 75. So let's test our math to make sure this works out. So a $90,000 gift divided by 6 means now there's a 15-month penalty. That's a longer penalty, but we're taking into account her income. So a $6,500 a month nursing home, subtract out $2,500 for her income means we need $4,000 a month to pay for the nursing home. So we take the total gift or the total amount of money, take out the gift, that means $60,000 goes into the annuity. Does that work? Yes. 60,000 divided by the 15-month penalty is $4,000 per month. Our math works, this works. So now the final result is the family gets to keep $90,000. And 60,000 of that goes into the annuity. The family has left over that they've not spent $75,000. They only need 60 for the annuity. So that means you get paid to do all of this for them, and possibly, depending on your fee, they get to keep some money. All right. So apply now, because we have 20 months to go till we're outside the 60-month penalty, but we're able to do this in 15 months. That saves them 5 months worth of care at $6,500. That's a lot of money. All right. How I present this to the family: would you hire me if I can get your mom on Medicaid and you get to keep about $5,000 of the gifted money that you now have? Now, remember, they came into your office being told you've got to pay for 20 more months. That's going to cost $80,000. They only have 75. That means all of that's gone, and they've got to come up with $5,000 out of their pocket. You're telling them, I'll do all this for you. You hire me, I'll do the work for you, and you get to keep about $5,000 of the money that you still have. Of course, they're going to hire you. Now, I do step out, I get all these numbers. I can do it sitting in front of the client because my staff knows, get some information, do something, give me about 10 minutes. I can sit there and do this, but the first few times you do this, I highly recommend leave the room, go to your desk, crank these numbers out, double check yourself, and then go back in and do it. All right. All right. So if this gift was made 40 months ago, then let's assume 150, the gift was, or instead of 40 months, I'm sorry, 150 was done 50 months ago. Remember, the best we can do is a 15-month penalty. Well, that gets us to 65 months. So it makes sense just to pay another 10 months and they get to save more than you could do for them. All right. And that's what I just said. All right. Getting hired, number 3, a child on disability. You're in the meeting, you go through, you ask about the kids, ask how they get along. Are we going to be able to do this planning with the kids on board? Ask about each of the kids, and you find out one of the kids is on disability. You're golden. Okay, this is the easiest case out there. The rules say that a transfer to a disabled child, regardless, I mean, they are disabled, it is an exempt transfer. We can give all the money to that child. This is a difficult situation because you know the rule. They've just told you, oh, I can get you on Medicaid and I can save everything by giving everything to this disabled child. And you may think, well, that's easy, that's simple. I can just tell them they can go do this by themselves. However, they didn't know the rule. The nursing home probably is not going to tell them, and I know DHS is not going to tell them. This is a very valuable piece of information, and you deserve to be paid for it. You've done the research. You're spending an hour on this webinar learning this. That's valuable to you. Here's how I handle that. If the family is truly poor, if the only thing we're transferring is the home to a disabled child, they have no money, they would have been otherwise qualified, but for this house, we don't want to go through probate. We don't want Medicaid to put a lien on it. So therefore we are going to give it to the child, and they truly have no money, I won't charge them. All right. But I will tell them, hey, this is great information. We can protect this house. That's why you came in here. I want you to go tell people what I've done for you. I want you to tell the nursing home. I want you to tell your friends at church, at the beauty shop, wherever you go. This guy knows what he's talking about. He saved us the entire house. We don't have to worry about it. You need to go see him, and they will be raving fans of yours. And that is the most valuable marketing tool that you have. And it's worth not getting a fee in those rare situations to have those people go out and do this for you. All right. Now, if they do have assets, okay, here's the way I do get paid, because they still need me. I will tell them, just because the rule says you can, that does not mean that the caseworker knows the rule and will easily let you do this on the application. Just imagine they're like, Todd said, we can do this. They do it. The nursing home's going to freak out because it's like, you did what? You gave away the house, and Medicaid says, well, you can't give away the house. You're like, but I thought with a disabled child, all DHS has to say is, that's not the rule. And they're like, well, Todd's an idiot. He told me that, and I thought he knew what he was talking about, but this is DHS. They know what they're talking about, and they said I can't do this. The case goes to pot immediately. So I tell them, you probably need me to push this through. When DHS tells me you can't do that, I pull out the policy and I quote policy to them, and they'll say, oh, I've never seen that before. It's like, yeah, this is in the policy. We can give the house to a disabled child. And they're like, oh, okay. They take it from us. They don't take it from the family. So I tell the family that, and I would say probably 8 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, we want you to get this through the state for us. They will hire you if you present it correctly. Now, proving disability. The easiest way to do that is with the disability award letter from Social Security, all right? Now, if the child is truly disabled, can't work, but just hasn't gone through the process of getting Social Security disability, typically there's this thing called a medical review team, MRT. When you do the application, you can say this child, name, social security number, whatever, is claiming to be disabled. I need your MRT to go out and evaluate them. The rules do not say that you have to be on social security disability. You just have to be disabled. And so the MRT can go out there, look at them and say, yep, you're disabled, you qualify. Now, if the family's just saying that they're disabled and they're really not disabled, they just living off mom and dad and not working, don't pursue this. It takes too long and you'll lose. So look for some other exemption or say, I'm sorry, he is not on social security disability, so we can't use this rule. All right. That'll save you a ton of time. Okay, getting hired number 4. So you've lived with mom for over 2 years and kept her out of a nursing home. And this will come up in a meeting because you ask the right questions and get to this. You're like, perfect. This is going to be a good case. So the child caregiver rule, if the child lived with the parent for at least 2 years and by living there kept mom or dad out of the nursing home, the house can be transferred with no penalty. Now, you will have to, the family is more than likely going to need you to push this through DHS for them because there's some paperwork. Caseworkers, we had this happen in Tulsa just recently. We applied with this exemption. The caseworker said, you can't do that. Just like I said, and we're like, yeah, you can. Here's the rule. The caseworker is like, well, I've never seen that before. And you're like, so we need to push this through for the family. How do you prove that the child lived there? The best way is the child has some kind of bill sent to mom and dad's address, hopefully 2 years ago. If you don't have that, sometimes their spouse still lives somewhere else. All the mail's going there. That doesn't work. I have found getting affidavits from family members or neighbors to say, yeah, they've lived there 2 years. I've seen them there. They have been a great help to their parent, and they sign this affidavit. That will get you through. A great thing is to have a letter or a doctor's note from 2 years ago that says, but for daughter living with mom, I would recommend mom go to a nursing home. That's a great note. Submit that to DHS and you're in. All right. My experience has been, now this is Arkansas, has been that the caseworkers actually don't give us too much trouble on that. If we just claim the exemption, they're like, okay, which surprises me because that's a big asset that they're not getting their hands on. But so far in my situation, this has not been difficult to prove. All right. Number 5. So mom moved in with you and she has a couple $100,000 in the bank. Would you hire me if I could protect pretty much all of mom's money? Well, duh, yeah. So here's the situation. You will typically get this as a phone call or at a party or somewhere. Someone will say, my mom needs care, but it's not like she needs to move into a nursing home. I don't want to move in with mom. I want to move mom in with me. You're like, okay. And what typically happens is they will sell mom's house for, say, $150,000. Being the good daughter that she is, I would never charge mom rent. So mom moves in, she lives there, and this 150 sits in the bank. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later, mom gets bad. She now needs to go into a nursing home, and now she goes into the nursing home with $150,000 in the bank. If we go back to the half a loaf formula that we just did, we can protect about 50, maybe 60% of the money, but that's still a significant portion that's gone. We can do better than that, right? So now they come in. What we advise them is they are now living, mom's living in daughter's house. What if mom buys daughter's house? Okay, so we take the 150, give it to daughter, and we deed the house to mom. Wait a second, Todd. You're now putting this back in mom's name. It's going to go through probate, all of this stuff. Well, it would if you don't do anything else. But when mom buys daughter's house, it's now mom's house. Daughter is now living in mom's house. We now qualify for the child caregiver exemption. It's mom's house. And daughter is living in mom's house. After 2 years, we meet the exemption. We now deed the house back to daughter. She now has the 150 and the house. You've protected 100% of the money. Okay, how much is that advice worth? Now, the numbers do have to work out, okay? What I mean is mom can't pay, she can't overpay for this house, okay? If mom has $200,000 and the house is worth 200, great. But if the house is only worth 150, mom can't pay 200,000 for a $150,000 house. That's a $50,000 gift. 50,000 of that is uncompensated. But what you do is mom pays fair market value, and any extra money she can now buy improvement. She can fix the bathroom. She can tear up the carpet and put hardwood. She can buy a new heat and air unit, whatever. She can now spend money to make this house better. And that is not a gift. And after 2 years, we now give everything back to the daughter. She has the money and the house. Now, you get paid on this by not spilling the beans all at the beginning. You get the information, get the numbers, and tell the daughter, look, I need to do some research. I need to go run these numbers, make sure that everything works. I am happy to put this in a letter for you. Okay, I will do all this, put this in a letter. If you have elder counsel or wealth counsel, there is a form in there. You can go in, plug in all these numbers, and it will spit this letter out for you. Or you can just go in and just type it up. And I charge, typically what I charge for a full estate plan for this letter, because it is very valuable to them. You are showing them how to protect all of mom's money. It's worth something, so charge it, okay? And I typically tell them, once mom needs care, you're probably going to need to come back in and see me, because again, we've got to push this through Medicaid. You probably want me to do that. You can do it yourself, but you probably want to hire me. All right, in summary, number one, prove that a gift was not for the purpose of qualifying for Medicaid. Okay, so do the caregiver agreements. You can do it after the fact, but if you're pre-planning and someone's saying, hey, I'm about to start caring for mom, absolutely do the caregiver agreement, charge them for it. That will save them a ton of money, but even if it's after the fact, they can do it. And then if that's not the case, show that these gifts were made for other reasons than for the purpose of qualifying for Medicaid. All right, the child of the applicant is disabled. That's a beautiful case. You can do it. You may not get paid for it, but you can get some great marketing out of it. Or if they still have money, you can get paid for it. Know the child caregiver exemption. Know it from the start. Know it from the back to say, yes, move in with mom, you can get her house. Or if mom's moving in with you, have mom buy your house, then you get the money and the house. All right. One thing I want to leave you with is never underestimate the need for the family to hire you. I have gone through meetings. I've spent an hour and a half with the family. They don't need me. They can do this themselves. There are no issues. There is nothing that they need me for to do this application. But I've learned over the years to say, you don't need me, okay? You can do this yourself. I don't see anything that's going to trip you up. However, this is what I do. I'm on your side. You hire me as your attorney. I will work for you. I can do this for you. I can do the application. We do it all the time, and I charge X. You probably don't want to do it, but here's my fee, and I can do it for you and charge the full fee. You'll be surprised at the people who will say, yeah, let's do that. Even if the kid's paying out of their own pocket, you may get hired when you thought there is no way I'm getting hired on this. But if you never ask, the answer is always no. So I have trained myself to say, even though this family really doesn't need me, the value to them of someone who knows the system, who knows what's going on to do it for them is valuable to them. We underestimate this because we do it all the time, but families will hire you to fight the big bureaucracy for them and ask. They may say no. Well, you were not going to get it anyway if you didn't ask. So always ask. They may say yes. Okay. I hope that you can tell through this, I love what I do. I love this line of work, and I taught myself how to do this, and I don't encourage anyone to go through that. And I have helped a number of elder law attorneys here locally throughout the country to take their practice to a different level, to get them into the practice of elder law, and I love it. And after 20 years, a number of people have come to me and said, Todd, I want your help. And I've done it just in a very informal manner. I am starting a coaching group, okay? It's not formed yet. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what people need, what they want. I would love to hear from you, okay? I want to know what your struggles are. Do you want to do elder law full-time? Do you want to get into elder law? How can I help you? So you'll see this link, elderlawinabox.com/coaching-survey. That's a quick, I promise it's about 5 minutes. Please go there. Please fill that out. Let me know what your struggles are. Even if you don't want coaching, that's fine. Just tell me what your struggles are. But if you do, fill this out. I will be in contact with you to say, here's what I'm thinking about doing. I want to get this going probably the middle of maybe June, probably July, but it's a year-long coaching program where I will teach you Medicaid, VA, office management, estate planning, whatever needs to be done, we will come up with that and do it. So please, please, please go to that link, fill out the survey. I promise it's not longer than 5 minutes. And please let me know what's going on. All right, Amber, I'm done.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Can you advance just one more slide so that everybody has your contact information as well as mine? Thank you.
Yep.
So we do have quite a few questions here, Todd, and I know that we have about 5 minutes. So if you're open to some questions, I'd love to get some of these answered.
Yes.
So one of the questions is, if we have a single man who owns a home and he transfers it to a revocable trust for the ease of management of the home by somebody else, will the man still be able to claim the residential exemption? He will need Medicaid in the next few months.
Okay, great question. The reason Medicaid lets you keep your home is because they want to put a lien on it at the time of your death as it goes through probate. A house in a revocable living trust obviously doesn't go through probate. So therefore, a home that is in a revocable living trust is a countable asset. So the answer is no, they will not get to keep that house because it is in a trust and Medicaid can't get their hands on it. An easy fix is when the person is thinking about going on to Medicaid, you have to transfer the house from the trust back into their name, which means it goes through probate and means Medicaid puts a lien on it.
Okay. Do you ever recommend that a client relocate to get a more advantageous penalty divisor?
Sure. Yes, I live about 5 minutes from Oklahoma, and there are people, our penalty divisor in Arkansas is a little bit higher than Oklahoma's. And so there have been people come into Arkansas to take advantage of that.
Okay. We have some requests here for people asking to see a copy of the release that you have clients sign if they're going to use their own financial advisor, as well as a sample child caregiver exemption write-up that you would use. Is that something that you would be willing to share if somebody contacts you?
Yes, just email me there at todd@elderlawinabox.com.
Okay, perfect. Once the house is transferred to the spouse as an exempt transfer, can the spouse then transfer it to somebody else without penalty?
No,
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like the rule, but I know in the 2 states I've practiced in, and I think in almost every other state, the spouse cannot transfer an asset that, quote, Medicaid let you keep and not be penalized. So typically on the annual review, after a spouse goes on Medicaid, the annual review asks, have you or your spouse given away assets during the last year? And the reason they only ask for the year is because they went through the 5 years at the time of application. They're wanting to know, since you became qualified for Medicaid, have you done anything that could mess this up? And one of those things is when the community spouse makes gifts.
Okay. Another person here is saying that in Kentucky, it takes hours at the Medicaid office to submit the initial application paperwork. Do you have that problem?
No, because we fax ours in.
Okay. Another question is, in the cases where you're using the child caregiver exemption, are you asking them to sign something with a retroactive date?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, we need to show that they have been there 2 years, and that's where you get the bill, a magazine bill, some kind of bill that shows mom and dad's address with your name on it to say, hey, look, I was there 2 years ago. Most people don't have that. And so that's where we go with the affidavit. It's dated today, but it says, I remember this person moved in with their parent around this date, which is more than 2 years ago.
Okay. And then the last question that I'm seeing here is somebody asking about the sole benefit trust and asking if that has to be irrevocable.
It can't be revoked. The simple answer is yes. Okay. You can go into a whole lot of that. It depends on who created the trust. If the applicant created it and it's revocable, then it's still going to be countable because you could undo it. But I think it's safest for it to be irrevocable.
Okay. And somebody actually just pointed out that there is a typo in the in your web address, the www.elderlaw inbox. It should be elder law in a box. We're missing an A there, so I apologize about that.
Yes, A box.
Yes. Okay. So Todd, I really appreciate your time today. That was a great presentation. I want to thank everybody for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to Todd. And thanks again, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.